Holy! What's good, everybody? Chiboron Puss here with the one and only Ace in Yamato Guide. Yays, Yames, whatever you want to call them. Now, they are a red attacker. They are phenomenal units. They are perfectly here to balance the meta that we currently exist in, so it's not completely tier 5s. Now, I know a lot of people are skipping on them, but they're actually really good units and really solid, so I do think they're worth it if you choose to invest it. They are a whopping 3,500 gems, so it is a lot of investment for a guaranteed copy, I will be honest. So if you want to take the commitment, just know it is very unlikely you'll get them until guaranteed. That is entirely possible, so statistically you should get them after spending 2,500, but I will digress from that. Anyways, let's dive in, look at the guides, the pros, the cons, who counters you, and the stats. So if you have not gone over the traits, I strongly recommend doing that before watching this video so you have an idea of what they can do, and we'll kind of work around that and tell what is good about them. Anyways, to start, stat recommendations. I think in general, and this is probably going to continue even after this meta, but I think attack HP is going to be your go-to. Obviously, you want to max out your attack, but HP is probably the better option than going defense. I think defense will work well if we get into a lot of other attack buff meta units. So for now, I think definitely HP attack. That's generally been the go-to for most attackers, and I think you're kind of safe with that. You don't have the most HP for an HP pool, but you got like pretty high attack, and your defense isn't even crazy high either, but it is solid enough for an attacker. So if you want to go attack defense, that is an option as well. But I think you're better off going full HP attack because you'll be able to tank a little bit more, and there's a lot of people who still ignore defense and a lot of the hits. So just keep that in mind as you're playing. Next, let's talk about the large list of pros. I'll be honest, I think when I was making this pro list, it just kept going on, and it was actually insane how many good things there are about these units. First off, there's 4 skills. You have 2 units. There's 2 characters in 1 unit. So you have Ace, you have Yamato. They both have skills. They have their individual cooldowns for each of these. It's crazy. And on top of that, this kind of goes along with this. Having 2 characters, you have 2 health bars. So if you are about to die on one, you can just switch over if you're able to, unless the enemy kills you first. But you are able to swap over to the other unit. This is also very similar to Kid Law and kind of a pro with these double character units. It's kind of disgusting with how insane they are. So you do have the 2 health bars. It's probably why they're more expensive when it comes to summoning them, but it is what it is. Next up is you have huge amounts of damage on 2 of your 4 skills that you have, like Yamato's charge skill, and then Ace's, basically both your press and hold skills. So Ace's skill 2 and Yamato's skill 2. You both press and hold each of those. Yamato's is like a one-time hit. Ace is a press and hold and kind of does continuous damage if you are within range of his firewall blast thing. I really like it. It ignores defense. The Yamato skill does huge amounts of damage and has an extremely large range. You can snipe people from across certain maps. If you're around Just Rosa Coliseum, you'll be able to snipe people probably almost all the way across the map. I haven't actually tried it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that. If you need to kill someone specific, it will do huge amounts of damage. So that is a large conditional that they have going for them, and it is a lot to work around when you are fighting against them as well. The next one is they're resistant to characters with buffs. So they get a nice damage reduction, 30% damage reduction to fighting anyone who has any kind of buff, whether that's crit, movement speed, attack, defense. Those are the 4 main type of buffs that exist. If anyone has that, you have an automatic 30% damage reduction, which a lot of the units in the meta have. So it helps you survive a lot longer and lets you kind of be a huge threat out on the map and kind of difficult to deal with as well. Next, you are the first unit to ignore defense on your basic attacks. I am kind of annoyed with this one because I really think the main people who should have had this would have been defenders with really low attack and really low damage. But the fact that you get stacks and attack buffs, this is also kind of in my next pro, was the 75% attack buff, which just alone with that, you're doing huge amounts of damage. So if you have 75% attack buff, and then you ignore defense, you're going to be basically one-shotting. I've basic attacked for like 16k on one basic attack as Yamato. And I've seen, like, I think on team, that was team boosted though. But on team, without team boost, I've seen basic attacks that go as high as like 10k. Now these are like crits, but keep that in mind. That's a lot. That is 1/3 of like super tanky defenders HP. Think about critting that, like 10k just for a basic attack. That's insane. The damage and the power scaling, or like the power creep, is disgusting at the moment in the game, and it just keeps going and getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. I don't know how this game's going to be playable in a little bit, because it's going to be every person fighting everyone with pure invincibility and pure like 100% attack buffs. I don't know. This is crazy to me. It just keeps going. It is what it is. Whatever. The next, it's good for them. So next one is you have a solid source of healing. You also With Ace, for just like when you hit your skills, you get healing. Yamato, kind of less so for amounts of healing because Ace actually hits a little bit more often than Yamato. So just keep in mind, Yamato doesn't have as much survivability, you could say, but Ace has like good ways to heal it up. And remember, you have 2 bodies to work with. You can always just switch off Yamato, heal up, and fight as Ace. And then once Yamato's cooldowns come back for her skills, you can just switch back to her and then heal her up if you have the opportunity to. The next one is your ignoring defense, not just on your basic attacks, but on your skills, which makes them hurt so bad. So you have that. People with defense buffs, doesn't matter because you ignore it. Then next up, Yamato. She has a phenomenal like damage increase towards Animal Kingdom pirates, so really solid. So in general, when you're playing these units, this is kind of just a tip and trick. When you're playing Yamato, she is not as good all around, but she's phenomenal against the Animal Kingdom pirates because they made her like kind of niche towards that. But Ace is probably your better all-around unit for fighting most people. So obviously you'll probably end up using both because a lot of people will just kind of use both skills and then swap to your character and use both skills and then fight. And usually by then you've killed your opponent, I'm gonna be honest. So do a lot of damage. And then your kind of like last major pro that you have going for you is your percent damage immunity. You don't take damage, you heal back 4% of your HP for any percent damage you take in the first place, which generally keeps you alive. There's only a few percent damage dealings that does more than that. I think like a kind of incendiary does like 6%, and I think that's the only one that you'll actually lose health on. Most other people who do percent damage only do like 4%. All right, next up is our cons. What makes you bad? Honestly, not much. But first things first is you're kind of vulnerable to people who ignore damage reduction. Now there's a few people who have this, and no one has this on their basic attacks yet. To be continued. We'll see how this ages. No one has this on their basic attacks, so you just have to watch out for certain people's skills. There's Charlotte Cracker with his skill 1, his like pretzel skill that shoots straight forward. That can ignore your damage reduction. You have Shanks ignores damage reduction. You have Kid Law, the Law skill that goes through walls, the big sword that goes straight in the ground. That one ignores damage reduction. Just watch out for things like that because those will one-tap you and do a lot of damage to you. Next is people with buffs can hit you pretty hard. Granted, people without buffs can hit you pretty hard because you don't have that damage reduction, so you lose that damage reduction, and so you are semi-vulnerable. Just be careful of that. There are some out there that are dangerous, so I think people like, first off, Charlotte Biscuit Boy. I'm going to try and refrain from saying his name because YouTube doesn't particularly like his name because it is an offensive term and used in the wrong context. Anyways, there's that. So Charlotte Biscuit Boy, he only gets an attack buff when he gets hit by a status effect. So if you status effect him, then he'll have it, and you'll have that damage reduction. But without it, he kind of just whops you. And then there's other units, I think like Green Bull, but Green Bull's probably not gonna be too big of a threat for you. So just be careful. Watch out for people if they have buff, or if they don't, you can see it with a little pink circle around them. Next is status effects will basically be the end of you. You have Candy from Prospero. Luckily, Prospero is the only unit who has the Candy effect. You have Hybrid Yamato's Frostbite. Hybrid Yamato can actually be a pretty big threat. I think she's kind of up there and one of your top people to be concerned about. And then next is like the Singe effect from Uta. Utas are also probably a big threat for you, so be careful with those. Status effects will destroy you because you're locked in place and you'll be one shot. And that's kind of how those characters have always worked. That's what sucks about status effectors nowadays, is if you're able to be status effect, there is someone who can one-shot you, unfortunately. Alright, next up, the characters you counter. Basically, anyone with a defense buff, you absolutely destroy for the most part. Now, I've seen Gear 5s actually fight and kill Ace Yamato. They've actually killed me, too. That big Bomba skill can hurt in the wrong scenario, whatever you're in, especially if he doesn't have his defense buffs. Sometimes when it's his very first freshly spawned Gear 5, he doesn't have his defense buffs, you don't have any protection against him, so he just shoots that Bajrang gun and it can actually do a large amount of damage to you, so be careful with that. If you're below like 70% HP, he can one-shot you because you take the damage before you heal from your traits, that 30% knockback heal. So you'll always take the damage first and then you'll heal back whatever health after. So if you just die first before you can heal back, then you're dead. It is what it is. So just watch out for that. Gear 5, Kid Law, those are the people that you can generally destroy. Again, watch out for Law's ignore damage reduction skill. And potentially Sanji. I'm not really sure. I haven't actually seen too much of the Sanji fight, so don't quote me on that. Sanji might actually be able to fight back because he ignores damage reduction 2 on his skill 2 once that's charged up, and probably will one-shot you. So these are all very, like, can go back and forth. Honestly, the Ace Yamato I feel like is a really solid unit. They are kind of, I don't want to say balanced because all these EXs are disgustingly broken, but yeah, they're solid. So just be careful with that. Other characters that you counter are just pretty much many units you're just generally good against. Like your skill 2 with Ace provides you a solid tank option, and it heals you, and it also does huge amounts of damage because it ignores defense. So that firewall, just press and hold that skill. It's pretty much your get out of jail free card. Just watch out for skills that can go through walls. Mainly Gear 5 can go through wall and it'll shock you, so it'll just stop the skill entirely. So be careful with that. Who's Who? Probably not really played. You probably won't fight very many Who's Who's, but he's potentially someone else who could snipe you and kind of choke you out for that damage. Next are your counters. I kind of mentioned a few of these already. You have Charlotte Biscuit Boy is your main one. I think he's the main one you need to watch out for. Hybrid Yamato and kind of Uchas. Those are like your main concerns. Prospero, you'll probably be able to get away and can kind of fight easily because his skills are generally slower-ish, or you kind of know when he's going to use them. So Prospero's not too much of a current concern, I would say. Just watch out for Uta, Charlotte Biscuit Boy, and Yamato, because those are the main concerns. So I would just watch out for those three. They have ignore damage reduction skills. Yamato's the frostbite. They have status effects. Those are the things that will absolutely destroy you. And then other fights are generally, like as I said, 50-50s. Like Gear 5 can kill you, but most of the time you will fight and kill them. So not too much of a concern. Kid Laws, if you just dodge that one skill, I don't think they have a really solid option way to kill you, so that should be fine. And then, yeah, that's about it. Like, you don't really have major counters. Like, you're actually a pretty big threat right now in the meta, and there's not too many other concerns to worry about besides those main ones and main things to watch out for. So, those are those. Alright, lastly, let's talk about the medal recommendations. I think what most of you kind of are curious about. Obviously, I have my guide thing that I always put together. If you want to check it out on Twitter, that link to my Twitter will be down in the description below. You guys can see the little picture that I have. So, I think in general you can go for damage increase. What is it? I keep trying to say damage reduction, but damage increase is what you want. You have the Luffy sets. Those are probably optimal. I think your skill 2s, I really like your skill 2s, especially on Ace. So if you want to go for skill 2 cooldown, I threw the Baroque Works option up there as well. If you have some of those older events, Kaido set you can never go wrong with. Those will give you those skills. You can have that one Kaido gives you the skill 1 cooldown from that, and then you have like the other skill 1 cooldowns from those other guys. And then the other one's Big Mom Pirates. You can get some skill 2 cooldowns in there. You can get some damage increases. You can get some damage reductions in there as well. You're very tanky with your damage reductions, provided who you're circumstantially fighting. So, things to watch out for. I definitely think the Luffy sets are probably better. I did actually mean to throw up the Dressrosa Luffy set. Like, that's kind of the whole point of the mix and match, is kind of all under that category. You can take any Straw Hats. You have Zoros, Nami's. Look at the traits on those and look and see how they match. But the Luffys generally are the best because they have the most tags on them that fit well together, and they give you triple effect, and they also have like really nice effects on them as well that would kind of fit into your niche. So I put this kind of Wano set together if you want to do this. It doesn't have the full dodge cooldown. You only get 7% instead of 10, but the 3% is not too huge of a difference, so I think that's fine to miss out on. Other than that, you actually like get the damage increase, damage reduction while you're on any kind of flags. And then the other one, I can't remember actually the exact trait. There's so many Luffy medals, I get them mixed up. So anyways, it's good damage increase. That's all you need to know. You'll probably one-tap almost anyone while you're on their flag. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you want to find out more, just let me know. Leave a comment down below. I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. Also, be sure to check out my Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. I'm always streaming over on Twitch as well, and always talking about kind of the games and different games going on in anime on my Twitter. So appreciate it. Check those guys out as well. That's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful new year. I'm Baron Post. I'm taking off. Yeah, hello. Peace, beautiful people.